Well, cooler heads prevail and the Good Samaritan Bill has been signed. We'll talk about it tonight.
The Dan York State of Mind program is brought to you in part by Lookout Rhode Island and Taco Comfort Solutions.
Welcome into my state of mind. I would imagine that the governor will probably make mention of this as one of her successes, and to her credit, it is that they've pulled this together at the legislature and signed a bill. We'll talk about it. When lives matter, sometimes the political philosophy has got to be put aside a little bit. You know what? I didn't think that way 30 years ago, but you get older, you get wiser or softer. I'm not exactly sure which. But we'll dig into that coming up momentarily. So don't go anywhere, okay? We've got a lot to cover tonight, so let's get to the rundown. Yes, tonight is State of the State night, so if you're watching at 7:30 on MyRI TV, she's probably still in the middle of it. If you're watching at midnight, that probably wasn't too good for programming. Forget I said that. You're watching at midnight, you probably, if you're community conscious, you probably saw it already. And if you, neither, wake up, because we need to pay attention to the state of the state. Headlines always preview the governor's address. And yesterday, while she was making SAT and PSAT tests free, at least that's in her budget for 2017, she chatted about the things she always chats about.
So we need to make Rhode Island a place where people have skills that matter and can get a job that pays.
And of course, same themes on economic growth.
I inherited a deficit. Yet again this year I started with a deficit, so we're cutting where we can and then investing in economic growth.
Well, some people would say she's not cutting where she can, because if she wants tens and tens and tens of millions of dollars for bridge repair, perhaps she should find it in the budget. I'm back on that truck toll thing in a minute. But look, she's got a philosophy. She wants to force feed this economy rather than let the economy run on its own engine with a better playing field. You'll probably digest more from the state of the state, and we will take care of it tomorrow as we pick some of the things I'm sure she's done well, and we'll have some critique, I'm sure. Moving to the big story last night, isn't it Shallow Hal? Isn't that where I got that from, right? You know, the Shallow Donald. Donald had a tough night. Here's a recap from CBS on the entire Iowa affair.
Democrat Bernie Sanders was already rallying supporters in New Hampshire before the sun came up this morning. He's predicting a big win there after what he calls a draw in Iowa.
We just got in from Iowa where we astounded the world, and now in New Hampshire we're going to astound the world again.
Democrats in Iowa split the votes nearly 50-50 between Sanders and Hillary Clinton. Clinton's campaign is claiming victory.
I stand here tonight breathing a big sigh of relief. Thank you, Iowa.
On CBS this morning, Bob Schieffer said the results show Clinton's campaign has problems.
Bernie Sanders, an avowed socialist who never sought office as a Democrat, gave her a real run. This was not a victory for Hillary Clinton.
On the Republican side, Ted Cruz won with 28% of the vote, but it's the third-place finisher who is getting a lot of attention.
Welcome back. I'm glad to be back.
Marco Rubio greeted voters in New Hampshire after finishing just 1 point behind second-place finisher Donald Trump.
We need to beat Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders. I give us the best chance to do that.
Marco Rubio is now in the top tier, and he's going to receive a lot of love from those others who were hoping to be the mainstream alternative in New Hampshire.
Donald Trump has a big lead in the polls in New Hampshire, but Ted Cruz will look to make a big dent in that lead after Monday's win.
I think the voters sent the message that they want a consistent conservative.
New Hampshire's primary, the first in the nation, is Tuesday.
The New Hampshire voters aren't touching Ted Cruz. I don't know. That ain't happening. Not even a chance. By the way, I don't think Hillary's a loser. Mr. Schieffer, all due respect, she got clobbered in Iowa back last time, was third. Kind of two winners there. Bernie showing more strength, and Hillary looks like she's got some kind of a pretty good organization. I think we overrate Iowa in some ways and underrate it in others. Donald Trump, the foolish man that he is at times, suggested that, hey, you know, back in June, people told him that he'd finished 10th in Iowa, shouldn't even participate. Last week, he thought he was the king of Iowa.
We will go on to get the Republican nomination, and we will go on to easily beat Hillary or Bernie or whoever the hell they throw up there. Iowa, we love you. We thank you. You're special. We will be back many, many times. In fact, I think I might come here and buy a farm. I love it, okay? Thank you.
You know, most Iowans, Donald, are telling you not to let the door hit you on the way out. completely overrated, polls overestimated, and that is not the showing that he needed, without a doubt. In fact, I talked to Professor Joe Camarano at PC today. He's the political scientist, and he was saying, you know, the kinds of interesting take on the kinds of fans that Donald Trump has. Listen to this.
Well, my guess is that they're sort of the extra 5,000 people who are showing up to PC games these days because, you know, they're top 20. As soon as they drop, you know, 4 or 5 in a row, they'll disappear. And so I'm not sure Trump has a lot of sustaining power, but I do think he can win New Hampshire because I believe he can get 20 to 25% of the vote in any state. And that will be enough to win because of all these establishment guys who won't leave the race.
Yet the professor says...
So, you know, Trump is done.
Done?
Done, yeah, he's done. Yeah, I've been saying that for months, and everyone goes, oh, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. And I was getting really nervous. So I'm kind of relieved about last night because I would have been wrong, and I've been so insistent that Trump wasn't a serious candidate. But I think last night was evidence he's not.
Oh, the press will turn on you on a dime. Look at these headlines back to back to back. Looking like Pat Buchanan, not invincible anymore, and then the New York Daily News, dead clown walking. Classic. New Hampshire's a week away. In Pawtucket, there's a letter, Maria, it's complete, it's outrageous. The headline reads that Larry Lucchino and Mayor Grebian, who's done an exceptional job in managing this dilemma of the Paw Sox in Pawtucket, they both signed this letter. I can't read it to you, but that's what it looked like. This packet, let me play this story and then tell you what kind of a classic mistake the Paw Sox are making here.
It's a Pawtucket thing. It's the Paw Sox.
And for now, the Paw Sox are remaining a Pawtucket thing after fans received this letter saying the club has heard the people of Rhode Island loud and clear and has refocused itself. New ballpark planning has been put on the back burner, and our primary focus this year is on our fans and the McCoy Stadium experience. How does that make you feel?
A little bit better. Still a little cranky, you know, because down the line, if they get an offer, what's going to happen? It's not saying we are definitely staying, so it's still kind of like up in the air.
But with a signature from Chairman Larry Lucchino and Mayor Don Grebian, organizing for Pawtucket founder David Norton believes the team will stay put.
I think this statement really anchors them to and recommits them to staying in Pawtucket. So I thought it was fantastic.
The letter acknowledges attendance at McCoy has been down, in part due to many fans upset over the potential plans to move to Providence. And so the letter says in order to reverse that trend, quote, we need your help as we move forward. The Paw Sox want a fresh start with fans, and Norton is on board with the new Paw Sox plan.
I care about Pawtucket, I care about the community, so it's more than just being a fan for me, it's keeping the community together.
This guy is a well-meaning empty vessel. Don't listen to his logic. Listen to Charles Steinberg, who was on the radio with Gene on WPRO early this morning.
Let's focus now on getting this franchise healthy again, getting fans to come to the ballpark again. We know that those who have come over the years view it as a second home, as a summer home.
Look, you know, Charles et al., Larry Lucchino, do you understand that when you cheat on your spouse and you're in therapy and you're trying to put the marriage back together, that you've got to do something demonstrative to show some kind of evidence that you really mean it? You don't ask the people of southern New England to go back to square one and do nothing to deserve it. You guys made the mistake of championing a move and a taxpayer gouge to go to Providence. You guys are the ones that are looking to move throughout New England. If you really want everyone to go back to square one and love you, you have to promise in writing that you're not leaving, period. Anything less than that is an insult to the intelligence of every single Paw Sox fan and Rhode Islander. And for that matter, the people in Mass who help you along as well. We're not stupid. All right, fast track, toll headline right here. I'm just warning you. this toll headline thing is true, and it's going to happen by next week. Chris Maxwell of the Truckers Association was here last night and says he's got some strategies this week.
Tax credits that were proposed have gone away. Those obviously didn't hold any water. Ultimately, this is a small business issue for the state of Rhode Island. Our business people, our citizens, our House of Representatives. The Speaker clearly, we feel he has taken the wrong position on this. We feel that this is going to resonate. There's going to be some extremely compelling testimony coming forward this week with numbers, and that's going to be smoking gun for a lot of these representatives. And if they want to read that over and be dismissive of it, then they will too have blood on their hands when this thing does finally fail.
Well, we'll see. Let's see how much you can still get into this game as a constituent and contact your senators and reps. In the meantime, it's not Punxsutawney Phil, it's Wisconsin. What is this? Do we have a headline on this? We always have headlines, you know. Look at that little dude. Play this, Laura. Where's this guy from?
So now, on this cold and snowy February 2nd, I, Jimmy the Groundhog, have consulted the skies over Sun Prairie, Wisconsin, and determined them to be overcast. Good job. So I am unable to see my shadow. In consideration of this, I thereby proclaim that we will have an early spring.
Doesn't count. It's from the groundhog's from Wisconsin. That's right. Laura's from Wisconsin. There's multiple groundhogs? I did not know that. All right. Hey, listen. This is a good bill. I guess. I thought the old bill was a good bill. But let's see some of the headlines on this. They were finally coming together at the State House, and the governor signed the bill just the other day. And Steve DeToy is here as the Director of Government Affairs for Rhode Island Medical Society, probably to say, yay, right? Good stuff?
Yay, but there's more work to be done.
Like?
The bill has still got a nuance in it that we don't like, that the undermining or underpinning of the whole concept, Dan, is that we need to be able to tell people who are in an overdose situation that they have no fear of arrest if they call police. That same message has to go to the police. The bill that passed last week, while a vast improvement, still allows police to arrest people for the delivery of a drug, which could in essence be, I walked in with 2 pills in my pocket, I've delivered a drug. So we're 95% of the way there. We've got a little bit further to go.
All right, we'll dig into that. I didn't realize, actually, thanks for telling us. I didn't realize that this was still unfinished business. When we come back, we'll talk more about it. Stay with us.
It's official. Governor Gina Raimondo signed the Good Samaritan Bill into law protecting those who call for help during an overdose from prosecution.
If you are with someone who's overdosed and you call 911, even if you're on probation or parole, you have immunity.
The new law replaces a similar act that expired last year. That won't happen this time.
There's no sunset, so we don't have to go through this again in a few years.
It's pretty black and white common sense.
Jonathan Goyer is one of several overdose survivors who came to see the bill become law. He says he overdosed 3 years ago and was saved by the reversal drug Narcan. He's met people who have been afraid to call 911 to save another person for fear of being arrested.
Nobody should ever have to decide whether or not a life is worth saving versus their own personal freedom.
So everybody knows, call 911. Just call 911. Don't be afraid about yourself getting into trouble. Call 911 to save a life.
Well, it seems to make all the sense in the world to me. Dr. Sarah Fessler is the president-elect of the Rhode Island Medical Society. Welcome, doctor. Thanks for joining me. Steve, you were saying, though, that repeat again what the nuanced problem is with this law that doesn't bring you all the way to the finish line.
There is still a potential criminal liability under the charge of delivery of a drug, which is pretty discretionary.
Okay, so role play. You're on the ground, arcing over from a heroin overdose. I'm on probation, or I'm in trouble with the law, and Doc is now a cop, and she comes and I called them, but I'm staying here to make sure, or I'm administering Narcan, or whatever I'm doing. What is my where am I still a problem?
If the police think that you may have brought the drug to the location where this is happening, they could technically charge you with delivery of a drug.
Delivery to that person?
Delivery to the facility, to that person, or to the premise at which you're found at.
How prominent do you think this dynamic is, and how problematic on a day-to-day basis do you think it will be?
If I had that crystal ball, I'd be selling that information. However, I'm hoping that the police officers who respond will use their discretion and not use it when they get to a situation like that. So I really don't know, but the original bill, the original draft of the new bill did not have that in there. That was inserted at the end of last session, and we went along with it because it's more than we had before.
There's a general philosophy here, though, which is, listen, we're not leaving people about ready to buy the farm alone when we can help them, correct?
That's true.
Talk to me about that.
So you want to help people in trouble. Folks who are addicted are the victims of their addiction, and they're suffering from a chronic disease. And we treat them that way in our business. And if there's a way that law enforcement can get between people needing help and getting help, we see that as a negative thing. I mean, potentially, you asked how prominent it was. I mean, I think if there's even one case where someone doesn't get the help that they need, that's a life lost. So you have to think about that.
And would spread like wildfire, that news, through the people on the streets who are using drugs. We need a clear and unequivocal message that if you're in that situation, call. Nothing will happen.
Well, I'm confused. Why did this dangling participle go unsettled? Do you think there's another agenda here? Was it recognized through the hearing process that this was problematic?
Oh yeah. There's a law enforcement angle here, and people who are trained in law enforcement, such as our AG, we have an honest disagreement with him on how to proceed. He sees law enforcement as having a role in treating this public health crisis. We see it as a public health crisis with no role for law enforcement at this point. So to answer your question, it was the
So do you think it's false advertising to suggest, don't worry, just call? If you didn't get 100% of the apple, are you suggesting, does your conscience bother you in joining up with the governor saying, don't worry about it, just call?
I would say no. I'd say in most cases it's not going to be an issue, hopefully. And we hope it's never an issue. And in the end, you've got to call because there's a life at stake. So.
But the truth is that people weren't when there was the sunset of the previous law and there was this downtime, correct?
That's correct.
I mean, the numbers are outrageous in terms of the opioid overdose, heroin overdose problems, and we've had many programs here talking about that. All right, when we come back, we'll talk about the stigma, which is always important to talk about, and a story that came out of Massachusetts that didn't help. Stay with us. So there has been a tussle between law enforcement and medical people and advocates for those who have addiction to heroin and the like, and I guess it still dangles. We'll have to develop this conversation on the radio as well on WPR weekdays noon to 3, sooner than later. But I want my guests to see this. I don't know if you check this out. Take a look at this, Doc, and read this if you can on your screen. Narcan is the worst drug ever created. Let the you-know-what die. I, for one, get no extra money for giving Narcan, and these losers are out of the hospital and using it again in hours. You should lose. That was posted by a firefighter in a Massachusetts fire department who now is suffering from a 90-day suspension for what he wrote there. But let's not kid ourselves. There are people who think this way, who say, listen, you put yourself in a situation, good luck. Your thought is?
I'd say ask anyone who's ever been addicted to drug if they were in control at the time they were using, and not one of them would say yes, that they ever wanted to be addicted, that they ever ended up in that situation, and that they were ever in control while they were doing it. Again, I think that people who are addicted to narcotics or on any other drug are really victims of that addiction, and we treat it as a chronic disease, and we're able to do that. There are a lot of programs out there we hope to get more folks into, where the state has made a lot of forward motion on trying not to overprescribe narcotics, and we're making a dent in things.
And I'm sure that there's a website for the Rhode Island Medical Society. I'm sure that there's information there that helps along in this regard. But let's not kid ourselves. You smart people known as doctors in this modern struggle may have contributed to this with some overprescribe of the kind of pills that I take for my tooth pulled and my backache. We've covered this often, the Vicodins and the Percocets that remain and you take, and right now I can't get any more. Now I like the thing that blah, 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 right? Because we see a different type of heroin addict in this modern age, don't we? Yes.
Demographically, yes, absolutely.
I mean, they look like successful people, not bums on the street. Not that I want to generalize anybody who's you know what I mean.
Anyone can
I mean,
end up
you
with
docs have got to have a pretty public conversation about this, don't you?
Yes.
And
Are you having one?
We have been having that for the last 2 years, and one of the nuances in Rhode Island is we have, under state law, more professionals that in their license categories, such as nurse practitioners, PAs, podiatrists, psychiatric nurses, dentists, that can prescribe medications like this than some other states who have also had a huge influx of heroin in their population. We are contributory, and we are doing our best, and that's one of the reasons that we've been a firm supporter of this bill, is to do what we need to do.
Do you suspect that there'll be more tussle over the language in this bill? You're going to sit back and watch this thing and hope?
I think that's up to our bill sponsors. I'm hoping that we will get a chance. This issue was brought up at the hearings last week, or 2 weeks ago. We didn't want to rock the apple cart. This bill was...
gift horse in the mouth type of thing?
Yep. So I think that we will revisit it. How much of a ripple it'll make in the pond is yet to be seen.
Right. And philosophically, take a minute, Doc, to just kind of say why this is so important.
This is so important because we're dealing with people in the throes of addiction, again, don't have control, in a very vulnerable place in their life, dying every week, around 3 deaths in Rhode Island approximately from narcotic use.
And you've seen those patients, correct?
Oh, yes.
Breaks your heart.
It does. It really does. And it can be anyone from any walk of life, you're right. All kinds of folks out there in this trouble, and we have ways to save them, bring them back from the brink, and hopefully get them into treatment and get them better.
Well, the first time that somebody gets popped, meaning arrested, for what you are concerned about is when the you-know-what hits the fan, and we're right back here having a big debate. Hopefully it doesn't happen. We'll see what the timeline brings, but we'll continue the conversation. Appreciate your work.
Thank you, Dan.
All right, Doc, thank you very much. When we come back, a final word on this. Stay with us. By the way, we failed to mention that these heroin overdoses are the leading cause of accidental death here in Rhode Island, past the auto accidents and everything else. This is a very important matter, and we'll pay very close attention to how this whole thing is executed on the street. Hopefully it's going to be okay. We'll talk more about this in ensuing programs, no doubt. Tomorrow night, we'll take a look at some of the aspects of the governor's state of the state, and of course, we'll review what she's had to say on the radio at noon tomorrow on WPRO with their weekdays, noon to 3. Thanks for watching. Good night.